So in the midst of all this coronavirus stuff, I'm taking you with me on a walk on Red Rock, and thought I'd just share a few thoughts that are percolating. If you've heard me share before, you've probably heard about my fear formula, but I've added to it the fear to fuel formula. I'll share that, see what you think, as an antidote for all this wildness. So from a nightmare perspective, I always say practice the fear formula, which is face it, embrace it, ace it, and replace it. And really, that's a pretty complete formula. And I also like to say that a nightmare is not just a funky dream that we're having, but it's also something that we deal with in our waking lives. And we're definitely in kind of a collective nightmare, or at least witnessing it. And I think the same principle is true for dreams as it is for this waking dream, because we are always dreaming. This just happens to be, when we're in a awake state, it happens to be a bit more of a stable reality than the one when we're dreaming at night. Okay, so face it. It's like, look at it for what it is. Get real, get practical, freeze frame everything, and just be as adult as possible. I think the child self wants to put their head in the sand and maybe be ignorant. The teenager self wants to rebel against it, wants to fight, wants to blame somebody, wants to react. But the adult self can face it and just get practical and think about what are some of the things that need to be done. Wash hands, use hand sanitizer. If you're feeling sick, stay in. Just be cautious without getting paranoid or crazy. So that would be the face it. And the embrace it. This is the tricky part. But to me, this is one of the most important parts of the whole enchilada. There's a Byron Katie quote that I love. It may be one of my favorite quotes ever. And it goes like this. It's very short. When they attack you and you notice that you love them with your whole heart, your work is done. I'm going to say that again. When they attack you and you notice that you love them with your whole heart, your work is done. So this, you might think this is about like a person, like somebody who's being mean to you or a hater online. But I think it's kind of like that with anything that feels fear-based or funky in the world. So let me go back to the personal perspective. And believe me, as I'm walking this out and talking this out, I'm finding my way. I think the goal is to let all of this stuff, as I'm walking through a mud puddle, it's super mushy and squishy. The whole point is to let all of this wildness be a catalyst to elevate us. I believe to make us a better version of ourselves than we could have been without it. I think that's the gift of challenge and difficulty. So I'm right in the midst of it, wanting to be made better, not bitter. And one way that I do that is by kind of talking it out and working it out and looking for the answers. And when I find them, when we find them, I think it's incumbent upon us to share them. Okay. So back to the embracing it. So imagine that you're an older person and there's a child that you love that's completely acting out, yelling at you because you're not letting them have their toy or eat a bunch of sugar or blah, blah, blah. But you still love them, even if they're saying, "You're a jerk, I hate you, you're stupid." Whatever. They might say even worse things than that, but you still are rooting for them and loving them with your whole heart. You're not wishing harm on them. You might not like You might not be like ecstatic that they're acting in this way, but you might be in awe that they've got such intense passion and that they're finding themselves, they're grappling with their own sense of what they want and how to get their needs met. So there's something kind of lovable even about how somebody might be acting. Okay, so that same perspective about the funky circumstance, like when the coronavirus happens and you notice that you are loving it with your whole heart. Your work is done. So, in a nightmare, I always say, like, open your arms and embrace the scary creature with the question in mind: what are you trying to teach me? What's the gift that you want to give me? As opposed to running from that scary thing and assuming that it's here just to kill you. It might be here to kill you, but it might also be here to kill off a former identity so that you can give birth to a whole new version of yourself that may be enormously better. So, okay, another mud puddle. It's funny to be having this conversation while I'm literally walking through the mud and trying to take off my jacket. It's really loud. So, where was I? Walking through the valley of the shadow of mud. Anyway, so embracing the funky thought, embracing the scary virus, embracing the scary creature in the dream from the perspective of there's gold in this somewhere. Let's be curious about it. Let's find what this thing is here to teach me. If I run from it, so looking at it from a hindsight perspective might make it a little easier. I think if we look at any of the challenges that we've gone through and become a better version of ourselves, we can look back in hindsight and say, I'm glad that thing happened, even though I wouldn't want to relive it. I'm grateful for it because of what I've become, or what I've learned, or what I know, or what ended up happening as a result. And because of that, we can say, yeah, I can love that situation with my whole heart. I'm not tolerating it. I can celebrate it. In hindsight, it's one of the craziest things to even say out loud. I mean, I'm noticing my own ego saying these words because it just sounds so counterinstinctual. But I feel like there's a reason Byron Katie said, when somebody attacks you and you notice you love them with your whole heart, your work is done. So I feel like we're talking about getting down to the nittiest of the grittiest. We're talking about the end game. We're talking about not just how do we cope, how do we survive, but how do we wake up? How do we go to the mountaintop quickly? Quickly. What's the quickest way? Oh, love them, love it, love the circumstance with our whole heart. I feel like that's where the work is. Okay, so that's part of the E for embrace. And then ACE is basically when you ace a test, when you ace a circumstance, it means, oh my God, I did so good. It's like you're on top. And that little challenge is like a teeny little pebble under your shoe. It's like, oh, that wasn't no thing. I'm fine. I aced it. It was easy. I got it. So you're on the other side of it now. So imagine that you're on the other side of the coronavirus craze and all the worry and all the drama. And then replace is simply like kind of the capper. It's like what started off as an enemy is now an ally. You've replaced it with, it's now beautiful to you. There's gratitude there. sometimes joke in my hero's journey classes and in the dream classes that an enemy from a hero's journey perspective is like an enema. It's helping to flush you out and clean you out of all that you are not, or all that is no longer serving you. I'm whispering this because I'm walking by people. So, releasing, letting go. Okay, so that's the fear formula. And that's whole and complete unto itself, but why not? Wow, this little girl's running through the woods. So cute in her bright orange PJs. Totally adorable. These kids are completely oblivious. Hi. Hello. Okay, so the fuel, if you're going to go in and do some kind of meditative surgery on yourself, you might as well give yourself a superpower, not just zip yourself back up and kind of in an ordinary way. So the F in fuel, now that you've gone through, you faced and embraced and aced and replaced all that was scaring you. So now that you're in there, here's the fuel. F is for the future. So knowing what you know now, imagine your best future on the other side of this whole wild circumstance, this whole pandemic. Imagine yourself in a brighter future, your brightest future. So take a moment to breathe that in. So are you seeing yourself in this future with 1,000 times more wisdom than you had before? 1,000 times more heart opened, more compassionate, more deep, more awake, more aware, more in love. Like the future you is the totally woke version of you. Get a sense of what he or she looks like, feels like, talks like, what their energy is like. So as you're envisioning this future, the you symbolizes unlimited. So this is about turning that future up a few notches, brighter, bolder, bigger, clearer, the energy, the feeling, the sights, the sounds, the colors, the taste, the smell. Take a big deep breath and receive that. The E is for enlightened. So this is just describing your ultimate highest self, your most awake self. Adding that element of you're not afraid, you're not worried when something crazy is going on in the world. You're a lighthouse. You're a light. You're a deeply grounded, high vibrational being. Here to wake others up when they fall asleep. Here to remind them of who they are. And the L in fuel is for lucid. So just like in a lucid dream, I hope you're forgiving me for all my huffing and puffing because the grade on my hike has gotten exponentially steeper. But it's easier for me to just sit here and take you with me. It just feels more expansive to do it this way, in spite of the sounds and the interruptions and the huffing and puffing. I hope you're hanging with me and going on this hike with me. So lucid, in a dream, you become aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. And you then open yourself to doing something radical about that. So if you were lucid in this dream, you might realize that the circumstances aren't as real as they seem. You can go backstage. You can peel back the curtain and see that this is a play going on. You can change the action. You could participate in it differently. You can fly. You can commune with an enlightened master. You can become an enlightened master. You could soar around the world. You could develop immunity to all fear and all dis-ease. What would you do if you were lucid in this dream? Where would you go? Who would you be? What would you do? How would you feel? So this is what I offer you today as I huff and puff walking up this hill on Red Rock Road that's now very green thanks to the rain in California. Lots of people on the trail today, a lot of people getting out to walk, and that's good. It's good. I think we need to move our bodies during a time such as this. So that's all I will offer today, and I hope this supports you in transforming your fear into fuel for your best, dreamiest version of you and your life. Sweet dreams.